Just as the Global Defense Initiative relied on various support structures during the Tiberium Wars, so too did the Brotherhood of Nod. While the Brotherhood used many of the same support structures as GDI during the First War, the faction would progress to designing its own unique-looking buildings during the Second and Third Wars. If you've already seen my video on GDI support structures, I'll be repeating information regarding the shared support structures of both factions during the First Tiberium War. However, I'll also be providing extra information on the interiors of the power plants, communication centers, and technology centers used by the Brotherhood during the events depicted in CNC Renegade, so feel free to skip to those chapters of the video. The most important support building a commander needed at their base was a power plant. Unlike the coal-fired plants used during the alternate Second World War between the Allied powers and Soviet Union, the power plants used by both Nod and GDI were nuclear-powered. Thanks to the creation of SMRs, small modular reactors, power plants could be built quickly, while leaving enough space for other vital structures located at a base. Of course, the more structures that were built, the more plants that were required to power them. Lacking enough power, base buildings would function at reduced efficiency. Specific structures like the communication center, obelisk of light, and laser fences would cease to function entirely if they did not have enough power. Advanced power plants, while more expensive and taking more time to construct, provided double the amount of power compared to a standard plant. Due to their secondary reactor, advanced power plants featured a second cooling tower to handle the extra heat from the reactors. Plants that were damaged in a battle produced less power, so it was important for a commander to get them repaired as soon as possible. While external force was the best way to damage and destroy a power plant, it could also be brought offline internally if its master control terminal was destroyed. The interiors of both GDI's and Nod's power plants extended underground, though the Nod versions tended to be more detailed, as seen in Renegade. The ground floor of the Nod power plant featured an array of computer systems, consoles, TV displays, and even a couple of cooling fans. An elevator takes you down to the subterranean level. Through a short hallway, the first room houses the plant's master control terminal. Across the terminal room was another room with several lockers. This was a changing room where Nod technicians and engineers donned protective suits, required for entering the room with the reactor core. Inside the reactor core was the mechanism that created the power at the plant. This mechanism rotates clockwise while bobbing up and down, maintaining a constant stream of electricity. Now, in my GDI support structures video, I put forth a theory that this method of generating power may have been related to the Tesla technology used by the Soviet Union during the Second World War. But now I don't think that theory holds up, given what a Nod EVA unit says while inside the power plant on the mission The Plot Erupts.
Tertiary grid demands increasing, diverting surplus power. Radiation levels fluctuating. Power core radiation levels vacillating.
So, this suggests that the power plants in Renegade are also nuclear powered, even though the mechanism used to generate the power is different from the mechanism in a standard nuclear plant. The blue glow inside the core of this power plant also reminds me of Cherenkov radiation, further indicating the Renegade power plants were nuclear powered. Back in the changing room, there is a door next to the main entrance that leads to a small elevator. This elevator takes the user from this subterranean level to the roof of the power plant. Another thing to note about the power plant on the mission The Plot Erupts is that it is connected to a nearby volcano. This suggests that the plant is also using geothermal energy to provide power to all of Nod's infrastructure on the island. For radar and communications, both the Brotherhood and GDI use a structure called the Communications Center. Noted for its comm tower and one or two parabolic antennas, the commander gained access to long-range views of the battlefield using this structure, as well as the ability to relay orders to units across the battlefield. Upon entering the Nod Communications Center, you would see plenty of TV screens displaying the status of the building. There is also a console which displays a holographic map of the planet. A rectangular section of the building's roof was a glass window, used to view the status of the comm tower from inside the center. A ramp going down to the subterranean level of the structure leads to what can best be described as the mission control room. A giant TV screen, along with many workstations for Nod personnel, can be seen here. To the left of the mission control room was a door leading to what looks like a server room. Down the hallway is a smaller room, which is the location of the master control terminal. Destroying this terminal shuts down the entire building. From this small room, another hallway leads to an elevator, which goes straight to the ground level of the communications center. If not taking this elevator, at the end of the hallway is a private communications room which the base commander could use to talk directly to the leader of the Brotherhood, Kane, via a holographic display.
You are quite the pest, GDI. Let me see. Captain Parker. Codename Havoc. How cliché.
An opening next to this small room leads back to the mission control center. Damaged vehicles were fixed at a pad appropriately called the repair facility. The facility could repair both ground vehicles and helicopters, though only one vehicle could be repaired at a time. As with base buildings, repairing vehicles cost credits, and if the commander didn't have any, then their damaged vehicle would just sit idly on the pad. Sometimes, it was better to just sell off the vehicle, especially if it wasn't worth the cost of repairs. In my video on GDI support structures, I mentioned that I did not know the exact process by which the facility was actually conducting its repairs. People in the comments of that video put forth some good suggestions, and the one that I thought was the most plausible was that the repair facility utilized the same technology as the Gizmo repair gun from CNC Renegade. Or perhaps more accurately, the Gizmo repair gun utilized a scaled-down version of the technology used in the repair facility, which is located on a layer of circuits just beneath the surface plate of the pad. If the pad was damaged, it would repair vehicles at a slower rate. Also, if attacked, any crew inside the vehicle could return fire while undergoing repairs. GDI tended to make use of hospitals to treat those affected with Tiberium-related illnesses. In contrast, the Brotherhood used bio-research labs to conduct Tiberium-related experiments on both willing and unwilling subjects. One GDI agent Delphi reported that Kane was overseeing experiments at one of these labs located in Belgrade. A GDI commander was sent into the region to destroy the Nod base and the lab. Using GDI's new ion cannon, the commander successfully completed the mission. Unfortunately for GDI, Kane was not actually at the lab at the time. Another bio-research lab, used to conduct experiments on civilians, was destroyed as part of a GDI special ops mission that occurred sometime during the first Tiberium War. Another bio-research lab can be seen next to Kane's temple in Sarajevo. This lab was destroyed along with the temple itself during a battle against GDI, which brought the first Tiberium War to an end. It should be noted that GDI also made use of bio-research labs. The most well-known example was during a covert operation called the Tiberium Strain, in which Nod forces destroyed 3 of these labs to stop GDI from conducting further ion research. The last building in Nod's collection of support structures was the Technology Center, also called the Prison. This legacy design from the Second World War was also used by GDI. For both factions, the development of new technologies occurred within the domes of this center. Barring that role, the facility also acted as a place to hold prisoners of war. The Technology Center was where the Brotherhood originally developed their infamous stealth tank, under the codename Ezekiel's Wheel. The center had been captured by GDI, and a Nod attack force was sent in to recapture the center. There were 2 missions associated with this event, one taking place in Mozambique, and the other occurring in Namibia, though I'm not sure which one is supposed to be the canonical location of this event. During the late stages of the First Tiberium War, one of GDI's commandos, Nick Havoc Parker, was captured by the Brotherhood. He was later freed by a former accomplice of his named Sakura. Havoc made his way to a technology center where GDI scientists were being forced to work on Nod's Regenesis project. This mission gives a great look at the interior layout of this particular technology center. At the ground level was a parking garage for vehicles of all kinds, from cargo trucks to tanks. An elevator would bring the vehicles down to the lower level, where another garage was located. Instead of the elevator, a person could just take the nearby staircase. This lower level had 3 entrances, each one leading to one of the 3 domed rooms of the center. One dome was the location of a prison, which was used to hold captured GDI soldiers, including those that were mutated as part of Nod's Tiberium experiments. Such experiments were conducted within another dome at the center. Several giant chambers were located here, each emitting a green light from their interiors. Prisoners were probably subjected to high concentrated doses of Tiberium to force rapid mutation, assuming such exposure didn't just outright kill them. A master control terminal was also located in this room, and could be destroyed as a tertiary objective. The third dome acted as an observatory, with a giant telescope located in the center. Data processors and an office were also located within this dome. From the lower level, there was elevator access to the subterranean depths of this technology center. Mostly corridors and side rooms, the main point of interest was a large lab where further Tiberium experiments were conducted, including containers used to hold mutant initiate or acolyte soldiers. The last room is where Havoc finally locates the captured GDI scientists, and faces off against the Black Hand's leader, General Ravishaw, who had been transformed into a mutant by Elena Petrova. Most notable, however, was a large blue Tiberium crystal located in the middle of this room. Blue Tiberium would later become a common sight, as the crystal continued to proliferate the Earth. After their defeat at the hands of GDI at the end of the First Tiberium War, the Brotherhood of Nod became fractured, with members of the Inner Circle vying for control over the organization. Even with this infighting, the Brotherhood slowly rebuilt itself, and continued to develop new technologies, vehicles, and buildings, all of which would be useful upon Kane's return as leader of the organization, and the start of the Second Tiberium War against GDI in the year 2030. The Brotherhood utilized a new design for the power plants. Taking inspiration from the original design used during the First War, the new one featured a large cooling tower to vent excess heat. Unlike GDI's power plants, which could have up to 2 extra turbines installed for increased power generation, Nod maintained schematics to construct an advanced power plant, able to generate double the amount of power. The advanced plant was built with 2 additional but smaller cooling towers. Without sufficient power, many vital base structures such as the radar installation, stealth generator, obelisk of light, and laser fences would cease to function. The Nod commander would have to bring some structures offline so as to redirect the available power to more important structures, depending on the situation. The radar installation replaced the communications center, though it performed the exact same function, providing the Nod commander with radar of the local region and the capability of sending orders to units out on the battlefield. This new installation featured a large parabolic antenna, which sat atop a cone-shaped concrete structure. Besides low power, an ion storm would cause the radar installation to go offline until the storm had passed. The Nod Tech Center was where the organization conducted its high-tech weapons research. This low-profile building was required if the Nod commander wanted to access weapon systems such as the Obelisk of Light, stealth tanks, banshees, and more importantly, missile silos. With a missile silo, a Nod commander could launch long-range missiles at GDI targets across the battlefield. The silo itself could store a total of 3 missiles, the most common type being the cluster missiles and chemical missiles. A cluster missile, also called multi-missile, was armed with cluster munitions that, when detonated, saturated the target with explosives. This could cause a massive amount of destruction, leveling vital base buildings or eliminating entire groups of enemy units. The explosions could also leave craters in the ground, making it unsuitable to rebuild at that location. Well into the Second Tiberium War, Nod created chemical missiles, using the harvested veins of a vein-hole monster. These veins would be processed at a special building called the Tiberium Waste Facility. Once the waste facility was full, the Tiberium would be stored in the warhead of the chemical missile, ready to launch. Unlike the cluster missile, which would detonate above the designated objective, the chemical missile would directly strike its intended target. The direct damage was powerful enough to destroy some base buildings or defensive structures. Clouds of toxic Tiberium would be released upon detonation and spread outwards from the impact site. These clouds were extremely deadly to infantry units, killing them near instantly or transforming them into visceroids. The green clouds were so corrosive they could even damage base buildings. While GDI were most known for their use of hospitals during the First Tiberium War, the Brotherhood of Nod managed to occupy some hospitals during the Second War. These places were primarily used to conduct Tiberium experiments on both mutant and non-mutant humans. Such experiments would contribute to the creation of a world-altering missile, designed to transfer all of Earth's carbon-based life to Tiberium-based life. This missile was set to be launched from a Nod pyramid. There was not one, but 3 Nod pyramids, which acted as command centers for Nod generals. The first was Hassan's temple located near Cairo, which was destroyed by the Black Hand, led by their leader Anton Slavic. The second was General Vega's Mesoamerican pyramid in Honduras. Vega's base came under attack by GDI commander Michael McNeil and his forces. Sheltered inside his pyramid, Vega and the surrounding region were destroyed by a nuclear missile, after Kane deemed him unworthy of assistance. Kane also did not want any information stored at the base to fall into the hands of GDI. The last pyramid was also located in Cairo, and as previously mentioned, acted as the launch facility for the world-altering missile. GDI forces led by Commander McNeil would assault the facility, stopping the launch and capturing the pyramid. Kane was presumed dead after his fight with McNeil, but he had actually been placed in stasis to recover from his injuries. During Kane's time in stasis, Anton Slavic would lead the Brotherhood of Nod through the Firestorm crisis. His death at the hands of an assassin fractured the Brotherhood once again. When Kane emerged from stasis in 2034, he set to work rebuilding his organization. Once reunited and rebuilt, Kane would begin the Third Tiberium War in 2047, utilizing a new array of base buildings to support combat operations across the battlefields of Earth. Thanks to their continued experiments with Tiberium, the Brotherhood was able to develop a new kind of power plant, one that could generate extraordinary amounts of power from a small amount of Tiberium. This came at the expense of ecological damage to the surrounding environment. Compared to GDI's power plant, Nod's plant generated less power. However, when upgraded with a liquid Tiberium core, it tripled its power output. This was greater than the advanced turbines upgrade for the GDI plant, which only doubled its existing power output. Power plants were essentially keeping Nod's base defenses functioning, including other support structures such as the Operations Center, Secret Shrine, Tech Lab, Tiberium Chemical Plant, and Temple of Nod. If a commander didn't have enough power for all base functions, and lacked an MCV to construct additional power plants, he could cut power to one building in order to bring another, more important building or defense turret online. The Nod radar was replaced with the Operations Center. Since MCVs were now equipped with their own radar system, the Operations Center performed other dynamic functions, containing advanced communications arrays required for Nod's costliest structures. It could also deploy advanced counterintelligence technology and upgrades for Nod's forces in the field. The Operations Center had 3 primary components: a parabolic antenna, a missile launcher, and a dome structure, which I assume acts as the center's mission control. The Operations Center was also surrounded by a railway track. A cart moves along this track to take payloads from inside the building to the launch pad. Unfortunately, this seems to just be a static feature, since I've never actually seen the cart move in-game. For upgrades, a commander could requisition dozer blades from the Operations Center, which were placed on a rack below the launch pad. These blades would be attached to the fronts of Scorpion tanks and Reckoners, making them capable of running down heavy infantry such as GDI's Zone Troopers. The dozer blades also increased the frontal armor of the units, so the vehicles could move through minefields without taking much damage. Dozer blades were originally researched at the Tech Lab, but were later moved to the Operations Center. If a commander wanted to better protect the control hub of their defense turrets, they could have another turret placed onto the hub itself. These quad turrets could only be requisitioned at the Operations Center, and would appear as 4 pods attached to the side of the center, on the opposite side of the dozer blades. In addition to the dozer blades and quad turrets, laser fences could be procured from this building. Laser fences prevented GDI engineers and screen assimilators from infiltrating and capturing any Nod buildings they surrounded, in addition to making them a little more resistant to enemy fire. Nod's continued research into stealth technology led to the creation of light amplification techniques that could create mirrored images of their fighting forces. In other words, Nod could create a decoy army. Decoy units acted as distractions to draw enemy fire away from Nod's real units. However, the decoy units were harmless and could be destroyed quickly. Instead of creating decoys, a Nod commander could use a cloaking field on his units, making them invisible to the naked eye. The affected units are permanently stealthed, even when moving, but the cloaking field drops when the unit fires its weapon. Of course, enemy units with advanced sensors can see through the cloaking field. The one major drawback, or bonus of the cloaking field, was that it could only be used on vehicles. The field would instantly kill any infantry units. Although the Nod commander couldn't cloak any of his soldiers, the field could be used to kill enemy infantry. Since the Black Hand didn't use any stealth technology, the cloaking field was replaced with a power signature scan. Because all bases needed power to function, discovering the location of a power plant usually guaranteed the discovery of an entire base. Periodic scans of the battlefield enabled the Black Hand to know the location of hostile bases and deploy their forces accordingly. The final support power of the Operations Center was its ability to launch a radar jamming missile. As its name implies, the radar jamming missile temporarily disables the enemy's radar systems, limiting the view of the battlefield on their digital map. As soon as the missile was launched, the Operations Center's dish started to rotate. Radar jamming missiles were assembled and stored in an underground facility below the center. Once a new missile was ready, it emerged from the silo onto the launch pad, and the dish ceased its rotation. The Secret Shrine was a cube-shaped building that contained the special training rituals necessary to deploy Nod's advanced infantry. In addition, research advancements that substantially improved the effectiveness of most of Nod's troops were conducted at the shrine. In terms of advanced infantry, shadow teams received training at the shrine. These teams would typically be housed at the Hand of Nod. Veterans would be grouped into a strike team that, when called upon from the secret shrine, would fly onto the battlefield using their gliders. These veteran teams would try and infiltrate an enemy base, destroying buildings and eliminating infantry units. Confessors were experienced Nod leaders who provided guidance to all members of the Brotherhood. Once their training at the shrine was complete, a single confessor would be assigned to lead a squad of militants. Confessors were also equipped with hallucinogenic grenades that would confuse enemy infantry units, causing them to attack each other. A shrine that had trained confessors had 2 green glowing lampposts placed at its entrance. The Black Hand sub-faction replaced standard militant squads with cabals of confessors. A Black Disciple was embedded within these cabals, as well as within militant rocket squads. The flamethrower of the Black Disciple was an excellent anti-infantry weapon that was also effective at burning down buildings. A shrine that had trained disciples had 2 red glowing lampposts in front of its entrance. These disciples, as well as other flame-toting units like the Black Hand squads, flame tanks, and purifiers, could be upgraded with a more powerful Tiberium-based fuel called Purifying Flame. Noticeable thanks to the blue flames, this fuel was exclusively concocted at the Black Hand's own secret shrines. The tank containing this mixture sits atop a pedestal next to the shrine. Another concoction, one that was made at all secret shrines, was a Tiberium elixir that would be given to Nod's militant and fanatic squads. This Tiberium infusion heightened infantry metabolisms and made them seemingly immune to Tiberium's effects, which was especially useful when passing through a field of the crystals. Green smoke emanated from the chimneys of shrines that created this elixir. The Marked of Cain had their own exclusive upgrade at the secret shrine called Cybernetic Legs. These legs dramatically increased the speed of Tiberium troopers, saboteurs, and the Enlightened. 2 stone pillars were placed in front of a shrine that had developed these cybernetic legs. Nod's air tower had limited space for their Vertigo bombers. If commanders needed additional landing pads for more of these bombers, they would have to construct an air support tower. These towers perform the same functions as the primary tower, including refueling, rearming, and repairing aircraft. Since the Black Hand didn't have a dedicated air wing, they had no use for support towers, or even an air tower for that matter. At one point, signature generators for Venom aircraft were stored at the tech lab, but were later moved to the air tower. If a Nod commander needed access to more advanced weapon systems and equipment for their lower tech vehicles, they would have to construct a tech lab. Inspired by its predecessor from the Second Tiberium War, the tech lab kept a low profile, so as not to draw attention due to its importance. The lab had 4 platforms where research technologies could be placed. To increase the firepower of their Scorpion tanks, Venoms, and Raider buggies, Nod commanders would requisition laser capacitors at the lab. These were attached to a post right next to the lab's primary structure. These lasers increased the damage that the upgraded vehicles could inflict on enemy units and buildings. The Raider buggies could gain an additional upgrade from the lab called EMP coils. These coils were placed on the backs of the buggies, giving them an EMP weapon that could be used to shut down enemy vehicles for a short time. The EMP attack was only effective against units or buildings that were next to the buggy, and the EMP wave would shut the buggy down too. Nod SAM turrets sometimes lacked the firepower necessary to quickly bring down enemy aircraft. To remedy this issue, Nod scientists developed a way to harness the power of Tiberium in their SAM turrets, giving them a substantial boost in firepower. This upgrade could also be applied to other rocket and missile-carrying weapon systems in Nod's arsenal, including their rocket buggies and stealth tanks. Both the Black Hand and Mark of Cain had their own exclusive but similar weapon upgrades that could be acquired from the tech lab. These were particle beams for the Black Hand and supercharged particle beams for the Mark of Cain. Both upgrades increased the firepower of the units and buildings they affected. For the Black Hand, particle beams were supplied to the Confessor Cabals and Shredder turrets. For the Mark of Cain, their Shredder turrets also received supercharged particle beams, in addition to the sub-factions Venoms and the Enlightened Cyborgs. The Tech Lab provided one unique support power called Redemption, an area of effect power that practically brought the dead back to life. Believing that a follower of Nod never truly dies, militants that fell in combat while within the vicinity of this power were resurrected as an awakened cyborg. These awakened were given the chance to redeem themselves by continuing to fight against the enemies of Nod. Understanding the importance of the Temple of Nod, Black Hand scientists at the Tech Lab were able to further develop Nod's decoy technology, eventually creating a decoy Temple of Nod. As a decoy, it was far less expensive to build compared to a real temple. It even came with its own nuclear launch countdown, and drew power from the grid. But if sold, the decoy wouldn't refund any credits. The most powerful Tiberium-related weapon systems in the Brotherhood's arsenal were all developed at the Tiberium chemical plant, recognizable due to the 2 smokestacks located on each side of the primary middle structure. If a Nod commander needed more Tiberium to harvest close to their base, they could call in an Armageddon bomber to seed the drop zone with green Tiberium. The amount of credits the commander could harvest and refine from this support power more than made up for the cost of delivering it. Tiberium chemical plants could create other special munitions, like the Tiberium Vapor Bomb. Also delivered by way of an Armageddon bomber, the Tiberium Vapor Bomb was an airburst weapon. Once over the drop zone, the bomb would release Tiberium vapor into the air, which would then be ignited, causing a massive explosion that would destroy any units or structures caught within the blast radius. Catalyst missiles were another powerful weapon assembled at the chemical plant. The Catalyst missile was originally developed at a research facility in Italy during the Third Tiberium War, and according to Cain, it was meant to be used as a hard counter against the Skrin. The Catalyst missile was most effective against units or structures involved with Tiberium. This meant that refineries and harvesters would be its primary targets, as the missile would ignite the Tiberium in or around them. The resulting detonation would instantly destroy these targets, and even damage other units or buildings in proximity. After the Brotherhood kidnapped GDI's leading research scientist, Dr. Giraud, they persuaded him to help them further weaponize Tiberium. One of the results of Giroux's research gave Nod the ability to detonate Tiberium veins. This Tiberium vein detonation could only be used on a Tiberium field. The resulting explosion from the detonating Tiberium covered the entire field, and slightly beyond it. Not only would any units caught within the field be damaged or destroyed, but so too would any infrastructure set up around it. If a Nod commander needed to establish a new base quickly, or expand their existing one, they could build a crane to help with construction efforts. Utilizing the same nano-assemblers, computers, and control units, the crane could construct all buildings, except for defense turrets or superweapons, as those still fell under the supervision of engineers at the MCV. While idle, the operator would move and stack containers of building materials around the crane. Other support structures used by the Brotherhood during the Third Tiberium War included a couple of administration buildings and cargo cranes at Nod's port in Alexandria. The cargo cranes resupplied Nod battleships, making them vital targets for GDI forces during their assault on the port. Over at the Nod base next to the docks, there was a compound headquarters and a port authority building. Both needed to be destroyed as part of the GDI commander's objective to shut the port down for good. Other similar-looking administrative buildings can be seen at other major Nod bases across the planet. In the Australian outback, both Brother Marcion of the Black Hand and Killian Qatar each resided in their own specially built headquarters. These giant cross-shaped buildings would ironically end up being sieged by Brotherhood forces. In the case of Brother Marcion, he and his Black Hand forces had gone into exile in the Australian outback during the interim years between the Second and Third Tiberium Wars. As part of reunifying the Brotherhood, Kane ordered his AI, Legion, along with other loyalist forces, to persuade Brother Marcion to rejoin the fold. Marcion's stronghold was assaulted by Kane's forces. The Black Hand leader's headquarters was destroyed, but Marcion survived, rejoining the Greater Brotherhood under the leadership of Kane. After the detonation of the liquid Tiberium device beneath Temple Prime by GDI's ion cannon during the Third Tiberium War, General Killian Qatar believed Kane to be dead and assumed command over the Brotherhood. In order to fight back against the invading Skrin, Killian made a ceasefire deal with GDI, a move that angered Kane, as it went against everything he had planned for the Brotherhood. A Nod commander was sent to Killian's base at Ayers Rock, eliminating General Qatar's forces and successfully capturing her headquarters. After the battle, Kane had Killian executed for her traitorous actions. He then promoted the Nod commander who led the assault against Killian's stronghold to be his second in command. With Kane back in control of the Brotherhood, they would break their ceasefire, hoping to stop GDI from destroying the Threshold Towers under construction by the Skrin. In the end, only one of these towers remained standing, captured by the Brotherhood and used as the organization's primary bastion at the end of the Third Tiberium War. Throughout this video, there is one building that I've excluded, not due to its insignificance, but because of its importance within the Brotherhood of Nod, as both a place of sanctity and destructive power. A building that deserves its own dedicated follow-up video, the Temple of Nod.